Good afternoon. My name is Ari Shpanya. I'm with a company called Slice. And today we're going to talk about volatility. And perhaps the crypto space is a good example. So as you know, Bitcoin, Ether, and hundreds of other cryptocurrencies, they're extremely volatile. We don't know where it's going to be tomorrow, and we don't know certainly how it will fluctuate the next day. And one of the best tools to solve that volatility is asset-backed tokens. And that's exactly what we're here to solve and build. So in terms of real estate, that's definitely one of the best tools and keys in order to solve that. And we have about 45% of the investment-grade real estate based in the US. However, 65% of private wealth is based outside of the US. So therefore, the notion of cross-border transactions make a lot of sense. And the problem with cross-border transactions, or in real estate, is that it is very cumbersome. There is a lot of taxation, structuring, and a very complex regulatory landscape. So what we do is we try to solve that and solve also volatility around cryptocurrency. And therefore, we start with giving the opportunity to cryptocurrency investors and later to fiat investors, but first with cryptocurrency investors to hedge their super volatile coin into something that is backed by assets, right? So this is asset-backed token that gives them a participation unit in a building. And we're focused on institutional-grade real estate. So we're talking about Manhattan, New York, we're talking about Miami, we're talking about LA, we're talking about SF. And the solution here is really giving something that provides a private market returns with a public market liquidity. And these assets are traditionally not liquid, right? So traditionally, if you go and invest as an LP, it is not liquid. You're sitting on that for 5 years, maybe 7 years, maybe 10 years. It's great returns, right? Sometimes, 15% IRR, 20% IRR, 25% IRR. It really depends on whether it's ground up or valued and so on. But there's no liquidity. So the biggest innovation of blockchain to that is the ability to bring liquidity to this type of asset class. We're now piloting with a project in Manhattan, New York, and another one in LA that is tokenizing a fraction of the LP position. So we're tokenizing about 5% of the LP position and allowing that access to a group of investors to pull together and own a fraction of a financial benefit in that building. So Slice allows access, it allows liquidity, and we utilize a real-time ledger in order to allow that. So let's see how this works. In terms of the workflow, in terms of the flow, we will have a user that comes into our platform. We're going to perform a KYC, AML. Then they're going to contribute either regular currency or cryptocurrency. Then they're going to choose their investment style, whether it's aggressive, conservative, and so on. And then we're going to give them the offers so they can choose either from a certain fund or a specific building, whether it's a ground up or whether it's a value add or it's a core deal. Depends what's their risk appetite is. Then we're going to put it on the ledger that manages the entire list, right? So we have a real-time ledger that manages the cap table for that building. So unlike traditional models where you have just an LLC that's going to hold all the participants, we have a real-time ledger that can be updated. That means that people can trade with each other. And in terms of the technical ability, they have the ability to transfer ownership to others as well as trade it in a secondary market. So in terms of the actual developer or the fund, they have one entity on a cap table. So they have one person, one entity, they send check every quarter, and then they send check. So they send check to one entity, and they also get check from one entity. So for their side, it's quite clear and simple. And the users, as you can see, we're focused on cross-border users. We think that is the biggest added value. There are tons of platforms in the US, right? So we have Fundrise and Realty Mogul and Realty Shares and there Peer Street and so on. We think that the biggest value is with a cross-border community because that is the biggest problem to solve. And the last stage is probably the most innovative one. It's allowing liquidity because that's what we all want, right? And how do you get liquidity? So one way to get liquidity is through secondary market. So soon there will be security exchanges and all of the Slice offering, all the offerings on the Slice platforms are security offering. And we're adhering to all the securities and regulation. And that is per country, right? But once the security exchanges are live, then you allow these users to trade with each other, with other peers. On top of that, we allow a reserve mechanism. So Slice has a reserve fund, and we are launching a reserve fund, and that is based on Bancor technology, which we've partnered with. And the idea behind that is really allowing liquidity to the users before they have the secondary market option. So that is the fallback, that is the contingency. They will always be able to come to the platform and get their liquidity, of course with a certain markdown, but that is based on an algorithm that is updated in real time. So let's take a look at the other aspects of that. Yeah, so the team is comes from real estate, private equity. We do not come from the crypto world. We actually come from, I would say, real estate and private equity. We're proudly backed by great partners like Bancor and Stellar, which are on board. And the platform is already in beta stage, and we have 2 buildings in New York and in LA that are currently in beta stage, and we would soon accept offerings. The building in New York is a building of 200 units. It's a $380 million project. It's not a small building. It's $80 million in terms of the equity cap and the equity stack, and we get out of that a slice. We get about 2.5 million, which represent 3% of the capital stack. So by that, we're allowing our users to get access to the financial benefit of institutional grade investment. And the lead investor in that building is a large Japanese institutional investor. So for the users, it's really a great opportunity, right, to get access to these type. That's pretty much it. You can learn more about us on the website, slice.market. Also join our Telegram group. And we have a booth downstairs for other questions. Thank you so much.